Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and non binaries. This is, well, a series. A series is coming to what used to be the Chamber of the Wraith for the first time in some time. I finally feel better. It's been a bit of a while, but let's just say I'm ready to roll. And this game right here is a big reason why. I haven't even left Act 1 yet. I haven't even entered the Underdark. But Baldur's Gate 3 is one of those games that I just love way too much. So I figured I may as well try to make a playthrough, see if I can actually beat this damn thing. Considering that there are 3 acts, I'm going to treat it as 3 seasons of Baldur's Gate. So Season 1 will be Act 1, Season 2 will be Act 2, so on and so forth. There will be also some light adjustments to kind of the flow of things to make it a little more condensed. There's a lot of walking around and fast traveling that you're doing. So a lot of the in-between travel will either get sped up or done with like a clock wipe transition to hit important events. On that note too, I will be, especially for the first episode, doing some light editing and a little bit of voice acting, just a touch. Just because I think to kind of make it flow better as like a series, which is always what I've tried to do with my series when I make them as games, I try to present them as like a show you would watch on TV. It was especially prevalent with Spyro because conveniently I could beat the levels in about 20 minutes, which was actual runtime for those episodes. I had some commercials in there, that's half hour right there. But I decided because of that, I'm going to make myself a few rules. And I have them on my phone right here. I don't think I actually finished them all. I'll make sure to post a rules thing at the start of the first episode, just to kind of preface. But here we go. Baldur's Gate 3. We're doing a TAV. As you can see. Okay, so here's some playthrough specifics. I kind of really like succeeding, to be fair, a lot of people do, but sometimes the dice can be a bit of a bitch. And I think the devs at Larian knew that because there's a quick save and quick load option in this game that you can pull up whenever you're paused, and you can pause in the middle of literally anything. So you can pause before an important roll, quick save, fail the roll, quick load, rinse and repeat. I do this the longer way just because I don't know. It's just another way to do it that I personally prefer to do. But for this, I'm not going to do that. Mostly just because I want some variance in this, because part of the fun is the chance of failure, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself up to 3 resets on any roll. I could choose to fail them sooner, just for brevity, like for instance with the pool at the very beginning, if you do an investigation check, if you fail something like that, I'm not particularly worried about that, but if it is particularly important, I will allow myself 3 resets per roll. However, the only reset, after that, I have to take whatever result. However, these resets do not get used if an inspiration or tool is burned. So if I were to use an inspiration on a roll, because they're limited resources or tools for the same reason, for like lockpicking and such, I'm not going to count rerolls that use those towards my resets, just because they're a limited resource. That makes more natural sense. I'll probably make sure to cut to the final result. And what I'll probably do is I'll do a roll counter to see how often I got that and maybe write down what results I got, just to kind of paint an idea for the wide ranges that you could get as rolls. It's a thought experiment. Traveling filler will be cut, say, for dialogue options. Yeah, pretty much. So sometimes the companions will talk in the game. So this is going to be one of those times where if I catch that, that stays, but there will be transitions outside of like traveling sequences that I have to go from point A to point B in order to get to a place, because nobody wants to see that. Lastly, first time visits with shopkeeps are unedited. So this is important because I visit shopkeeps quite a bit, particularly Damon. So with that in mind, between let's say Aaron, he's the first real trader you run into. I'm gonna leave that unedited, run it through as per usual. But any future shopping trips, I'll just fast forward so that you can see that I'm buying stuff. But once that's done, that's done. Yeah, it's to speed things along, especially for really long shopping trips for like multiple items. That can be a bit of a drag. So I wish to condense. I wish to condense so that you guys can actually have something enjoyable to watch. Because, you know, half the reason why I do this is for you guys. Even though I am very, very small, I always appreciate anybody who stops by. So let's get this over with, shall we? So, as I said earlier, I am making a Tav. My favorite companion is Karlach, full disclosure. So we're going to be seeing a lot of her. It's like, my main three are like, it is the most basic of the bunch, but it really is Karlach, Astarion, Shadowheart. But I can't help it. I like these three goobers. They are fun. They're fun. So because of that, I was actually tempted, to play as Karlach for this run. I was actually tempted to play as my favorite companion. So that way I could have my ideal non-Tav party of the prior three, plus Gale, actually. Because Gale's a good mug. But I do seem to believe that we are actually going to be working on our own. Yes, because we're going to be working on a Tav, which is the name that you get at the start, and that's kind of why it's kind of shorthand for your custom characters is Tav. Which apparently, according to some polls on Larian, 95% of people do a Tav run, which makes perfect sense. So I figured I may as well do that. So we are playing as my favorite race, the Tiefling, because I feel like I'm super basic, but at the same time, I cannot get enough of a creature type sapiens. And it's also why I fuck really heavy with Dragonborns. Asterisk if they actually have a tail. Otherwise, this is just a weird, scaly man. I've never liked reptilian characters that don't have tails. So it's just if you cut off a reptile's tail, it just does not work with the rest of the design. You kind of need that, at least in my mind. At any rate, like I was saying, though my favorite race is still the Tiefling. And it's not just because, cute hot demonic aesthetics and hot topic jokes. No, these guys are actually really good. Especially since some variants in the 2014 rules have wings and can fly in medium armor. So thank God they didn't put that in this game, because that is just an auto win for most combat encounters. Anyhow, so here's where things get fun. We are doing a Tiefling, but I'm going to do a Zariel Tiefling, because the thing about Zariel Tieflings is that they come with Thaumaturgy, which is advantage on intimidation and perception checks. I've yet to find a situation where I've needed to use Mage Hand. So, I personally, as much as I love the Mephistopheles Tieflings personally, I am not particularly keen on Mage Hand, because I've never had a need for this, actually. For Mage Hand, which is weird because Mage Hand is usually such a good cantrip in D&D. It's just I've never had an opportunity to actually use it, which is weird. Asmodeus Tieflings, these are the ones I play with the least because I'm not a big fan of Produce Flame. So I would presume it's this Hellish Rebuke and Darkness based off of the description. So this is your basic Tiefling. But considering I'm playing the face character, I'll be doing most of the talking. It would make sense to have a Zariel Tiefling because of the Thaumaturgy cantrip. Now, here's the thing. I ran a poll on Twitter today while I was at work because I was torn between which class to play. The Bard, who is mistress of all that is charisma, it's kind of insane how crazy you can get with the charisma rolls as a bard, especially with some of the whacked out shit you could say. However, I was torn between that and my favorite class, the sorcerer. So I thought about it, and I ran the poll, and the split was 6-3. 9 people voted, but the vote was 6-3 for the sorcerer. Seems like people like these guys too. So let's talk about sorcerers. These guys are innate spellcasters that use charisma. They use charisma as their spellcasting modifier. As you can see, they have nothing in terms of weapon proficiencies. It is literally a not gun in terms of the light crossbow, because that's how D&D treats them. A quarterstaff, which is using the weaker stat at all times, because strength is a dump stat for the sorcerer. And then you have daggers, which is the only viable weapon you could actually have. But this also means that you have to kind of picture a sorceress with like a dozen knives. And honestly, that kind of checks out. So, with cantrips, you have a wide variety of options. I personally go with this, especially when it comes to the different types of damage we got. Ice, the fire, the shock, and the bone chill. So 4 offensive cantrips at level 1. There's really no need for any of these other ones. You shouldn't be getting close enough to using Booming Blade, especially at level 1. This is one of those cantrips you could reasonably actually save for later. Because with the right race and ACs, like a Draconic, like this is actually crazy. This is something that works both in real D&D, like tabletop D&D and Baldur's Gate 3. There is a dwarf variant in each of these variants. In Baldur's Gate 3, it's the Gold Dwarf, and in normal D&D, I believe it's the Hill Dwarf. Yes, the Hill Dwarf, because this is the Mountain Dwarf. That gets something really fun. But those both get an extra hit point every level, and so do Draconic Bloodline Sorcerers. So you get plus 2 HP every level. And then you take Toughness at level 4. All of a sudden, you have a surprisingly tanky sorcerer that can actually get in and fight people up close. With Mage Armor and Booming Blade and other shenanigans, close range sorcerers are a bit of a sleeper build. However, I'm not going to do that because that requires I play as a Gold Dwarf, and that is not what I am going for. I'm going for a Tifa. So, I'm going to go with Chromatic Orb because you can't. If you're going to have a spell that lets me choose the damage type, why wouldn't I choose it? That's really what it boils down to. Now, here's where it gets interesting because you can't unlearn spells, and you can't really unlearn spells, and sorcerers are kind of built in with them permanently. So you really should think about what you want your sorcerer to do. In my case, I want my sorcerer to be good at combat and talking. We already have the talking part covered in upcoming proficiencies and and a few other tricks that I have in mind. But for now, we need to focus on combat options. And my money is going to be on as a sorcerer, because remember, you can create spell slots, but it can be a bit of a dicey proposition. So make sure what you pick is worth it. Chromatic Orb for sure, and then really again, Sleep is a great spell, so is Shield. Excuse me. Mage Armor, as I suggested before. I'm going to probably go with Sleep, because as somebody who's going to have Astarion on the team, it would make sense to have somebody who could put enemies to sleep to make easier advantages so that he can use sneak attack more often. It's one of those things that you kind of learn from both D&D and Baldur's Gate 3. Rogues are fucking terrifying if you give them advantage. They really make the most of it. Now, I've talked up Draconic Bloodline Sorcerers, and they do get a few cool things, like resistance to the damage, like a base armor class of 13 instead of 10, and 1 extra hit point. This is the tanky sorcerer. This is why you pick Draconic Bloodline if you're going for this, because it has this extra toughness. in D&D proper, the ancestor of, I believe the ancestor of your, yeah, here we go. And you can become resistant to fire damage. So yeah, this is where your ancestor comes in. Same idea as it is in base D&D. Level specs, your spells are more powerful, and you are become resistant to fire damage. Now keep in mind, level 6 is actually halfway through the leveling scale in Baldur's Gate, apparently. So it actually goes up to 12 instead of 20, but honestly, that's completely fine. But yeah, so as you can see, this also gives you resistance to the damage that you are proficient in, so to speak, which makes a lot of sense. And if you, as you can see, if you pick them, you get these different varying scale types depending on your ancestry. Pretty cool. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk you through the subclasses real quick. Shadow Magic, 24-meter dark vision, and basically a focus band in Pokemon, if that makes sense. This lets you survive any one hit once. I think this is like a short rest situation, like where it's, or rather a long rest situation where you only get it once per long rest, but still not bad. Wild Magic I've never done, and D&D is a chaotic enough game as it is. I don't need this shit to worry about. So it's Storm Sorcery, and Storm Sorcery has a pretty neat trick, which it only has the one trick, because the other stuff in D&D, like the Storm Aura and stuff, don't really work with Baldur's Gate's design. But the fact that you can fly as a bonus action pretty much at any time, as long as you cast a spell that would cost a spell slot, there's kind of an exploit for this that gives you flight on command. And I'll be more than happy to show you in the episodes. But before we get too far in, let's pick a background. Now, we want anything that has to do with charisma in terms of skill proficiencies. There's a few of them in here. But as you can see, if we go into skills, we can choose between Arcana, Deception, Intimidation, and Persuasion. So we can choose between all of these except for Performance as our proficiencies. So we have options. But the smart thing, I think, is we either go with an Entertainer who will have proficiencies in acrobatics and in performance. I wonder if that means you are automatically capable of playing the musical instruments. That would be a very interesting thing. So that's one option. But I'm actually going to go with Noble. A bit of a controversial one for most people, but it comes with a handy intelligence perception, and I don't have to waste a proficiency on persuasion. I just get that. So if we go back to skills, now I have Arcana, and I have Deception boosted. But I actually am not that worried about my Arcana. I want to make sure I am as chatty as possible. So, believe you me, when I actually say I'm going to drop Deception, at level 4, your character can get a feat. And I am going to be building around the Actor feat. The Actor feat allows a +1 to your Charisma, and expertise in performance and deception. You heard me right. Expertise, not a proficiency. For those not in the know, an expertise in a skill is a doubled proficiency. Usually only really bards and rogues get this kind of stuff. So giving that to a charisma-based spellcaster who's already going to be doing a lot of talking, oh baby, that's fantastic. Now, granted, you can't really do in the whole mimicking stuff that is written in D&D, but I mean, the deception checks are kind of the same idea, you can imagine. So, as you can see, I'm actually going to go with Insight. Because here's the thing. My wisdom is not going to be great, but if you read a rune, that helps you through a lot of conversations. So, here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to take Constitution, drop it by 1, bring up my Wisdom. Now, this is where things can get kind of Interesting. I could actually choose. No, actually, I won't. So this is actually the spread I think I'm going to go with for sure, because a 9 in strength is going to be useless for me. I don't intend on getting shoved all that often. Plus, if I have dexterity, that counts as a dex saving throw. So if I use my acrobatics, which would be higher, I can withstand being shoved at the very least. So don't really need strength. Like I said, it's the dump staff for sorcerers. But I wanted both of my mental stats to have at least a gentle boost so that I'm not completely useless in those departments, because, I'm less of a fighter, so got to be the one doing the thinky. But that works just fine, because that now means I actually have a +4 to my insight. Not bad. And that's only going to get better from there. So my wisdom is actually all right. I would just need to boost my intelligence a little bit, and ideally get a dex boost somehow, some way. But that is the skills. Now we're going to do the appearance. The thing I particularly like tolls, so I'm going to go with a toll.
What was that?
Yeah. So I kind of run through these one at a time to just kind of go through these.
Hells. Something just woke up down here. It's opened. I wonder what's back there.
There's magic keeping this chest sealed. I can feel its aura.
Alright. Before I decide on the voice, let's actually decide on the rest of our features first. First and foremost, I know exactly what I'm going to do with I was going to go for the horns, but actually I'm going to go through the faces first. I think they're just the same as the regular tiefling faces. Yeah, it's really changed. See, this is the Mephistopheles face. So I'll actually sit on that for now. But I'm going to go right to the horns and find trying to see what horns best go with the face. Yeah, I like how that frames her face better. So I'm gonna go with the red horns. Okay, that out of the way. Let's keep moving. Now that we have her face, let's pick her voice.
What was that?
Hells. Something just woke up down here.
It's opened. I wonder what's back there.
There's magic keeping this chest sealed. I can feel its aura.
What was that?
Alright, I'm gonna go with this one, I think. Alright. Now, as you can see, you actually have access to all the skin colors. So that means Rainbow Tiefling Party! Rainbow Tiefling Party! Nah, jokes aside. Being a Storm Sorcery Tiefling, my first instinct is usually to go with like a blue. But an interesting consideration I did see in another Tiefling Sorceress that I built is a sort of a Snow White Tiefling. I can't really do that, especially since I already built it for a character. So, but what I can do is take the inspiration of weather and look at other weather type colors. So let's take a look, for instance, at Ice Tone 9. Oh, that's a bit too dark. There we go. Ice Tone 7. Very grim clouds. Yeah, I like where that's going. And honestly, I'm a sucker for freckles, so freckles, here we come. No vitiligo. Scar? As a noble, probably not. Yeah, there's nothing small. If like this, you would think this is the smallest scar, but it's actually kind of massive. Can't really see much in terms of a reasonable reason for a noble to have at least that crazy of a scar. At least in my mind. Alright. Oh yeah. I just noticed a few of the options as I was making this character, and it makes me realize that I need to approach Baldur's Gate 3 carefully. It is a rated M game, this much is clear, and I personally am one to show as much of the game as I can. Problem comes from where I'm uploading this, which is YouTube. Can't really have graphic sex on YouTube, no matter what the algorithms seem to somehow promote otherwise. So I figured, for those who are not keen on the spice, and to make sure that the videos can actually go up on YouTube, I'm going to do fade to blacks for most of the actually graphic scenes. Don't worry, I will make sure that you guys know what's happening, because alongside providing some helpful text demonstrations for those who just can't wait, I'm going to compile everything, I think, into a special compilation that I won't even be able to upload on YouTube. I'm mostly doing this to buy some time for me to figure out exactly where I'd even be able to put it, you know? So it's one of those things that I'm going to have to entertain, because a lot of raunchy shit happens in both D&D and Baldur's Gate. So I had some considerations I needed to make for a bit, but I've decided I'm just going to play it safe for respect out of my audience and for the platform that I'm posting it on. I also went ahead and picked her eye color because purple's my favorite color and I can't help it. However, I'm actually going to go ahead and yes, there it is. Actually, no. I'm going to disable that and just leave it purple. It's less distracting that way. I actually think a noble would have some subtle tattoos. Something small, something classy, you know? Yeah, like a rose on the neck. That's perfect. Piercings. Where are the bard rings? Yeah, there we go. Perfect. I'm honestly a fan of that. Just do this. Bring up the metallic tints so that it's a little more visible, and be on my way. Black lips. Tint intensity, turn up metallic intensity, turn up the glossy intensity. And then this is the last bit that really has me think, and that's the hair. Because there's several really good hairstyles I've used in the past. So it takes some time for me to actually find one that works best for what I've got going on here. And I think there's one I actually would not mind using. There we go. Mongoose tail? Yeah, let's do a mongoose tail. Haven't done this one yet, but I kind of like it. And then, yeah, I'm going to do black neutral or black raven. Black raven, actually. Then I'm going to do blue highlights. I'm going to like max them out first to see what that looks like. So it looks like it's mostly one-sided. So I'll just bring that down to here. There we go. That looks about right. And then we already did these, except I'm going to change the colors. Blue horns. And congratulations, she is born. What's her name? This is the part where I usually wing it. But you're not going to see it. You'll get to learn it in the first episode. So, thanks for joining me on this lovable adventure. This is the Tav. See you soon, and as always, don't forget to be awesome.